thought that some of you might have an interest in seeing my CD collection. Most of the CDs I own are in this binder. I have a couple of stray discs, and those are on my bookshelves, but they don't really count. It's nothing that I'm particularly fond of protecting or keeping around. These aren't music CDs. It's just a collection of discs that I've seen, that have come with me throughout the years and somehow made their way into this binder. Long ago, I burnt all of my music CDs and put them on an external drive, and now my entire music collection is digital. I like the brand of this binder, the Protective Century brand. I do have one other binder with discs, and it's all instructional music stuff, lessons, but that's kept separate for research purposes. This is just more my storage binder. So you'll get to see every movie I own. It's not very many. Last year I sold my entire collection of concert films. It was about 75 of them in 2 big bulk lots on eBay, and the rest of them I sold online. I just wasn't watching them, and I've always been the type to sort of cull my collections of stuff if I realize that it's not going to be used. And a lot of the discs in this binder I could easily ditch, but before I do that, I thought I would open the archives and let everybody see what I've collected in one way or another. So first of all, they're not in any particular order, that's for sure. And it's a good mix of random stuff. So we have a 16-minute preacher feature, Reverend Billy and the Church of Stop Shopping. This was an impulse buy, sort of an art collective doing faux preaching on the streets, telling everyone to stop with the consumerism. So we've got a charismatic theater type playing the role of Reverend Billy. I only watched this once, it was years ago. And he's accosting people on the streets and telling them that they need to stop shopping. And I don't think he means just for one day a year. I think he means forever. So this is a concert film documentary on the band The Black Dahlia Murder. And it's one of the few heavy metal bands that I would consider myself fond of, who are contemporary groups. I do often sometimes, when I'm in the mood to listen to heavy metal, usually I'll just scour YouTube and go from album to album. And it's a great way to find interesting new stuff, but I just never remember what any of it is, or if I save it, I just never really reference those bookmarks. But I guess of the bands who've been active in the last 10 years, I do like Black Dahlia Murder. I like the guys' shrieking vocals, and the arrangements are really good. The music's good. Although I couldn't really consider myself a fan because I can't name any of their albums or songs, but I've enjoyed watching this DVD. Okay, so now we have, next up, Prince. This is one of Prince's concert films. And he actually has 2 of them, and I used to own both, but I hope I still own both, but maybe I sold one. But this is the better concert for overall entertainment value, live at the Aladdin in Vegas. His other one was the 1999 special, with a lot of guest stars. Lenny Kravitz, that's familiar, right? And having Kravitz as your guest star. Prince was doing it long ago. And George Clinton and some other popular people. Hopefully there's not too much glare. I'll try to pay attention and avoid it. So actually Prince is in the news locally. He's kicking off his tour called the Hit and Run Tour in Louisville, Kentucky. 4 show dates, and they're all, I guess, this weekend. His new drummer for his all-female funk band is from Louisville, so the newspaper article I read said that influenced his decision to start his newest tour in Kentucky, which is great. Although it's already sold out and it's probably really expensive, so I wasn't going to go anyway. I don't know what a Prince ticket costs, but I would guess it's somewhere in the range of the U2 concert experience range. But although I do love Prince and his entire recorded output, but especially I think as a showman, this is best to watch his DVDs. And if you're a fan of punk music, you've got to watch his concert films. I would consider them indispensable. My favorite funk DVD of all time, however, is this George Clinton Parliament Funkadelic Mothership Connection DVD, which I will never get rid of, and I've watched it in its entirety at least 30 times. It's the perfect storm of just music and the atmosphere, the essence of funk. My favorite concert film of all time, probably. I guess I'll leave it at that. So here's a Queen additional CD that probably came with their Wembley concert DVD film, which I also watched quite a lot. But this is one of the mini discs in here that I could easily just dispose of. It's just sort of a behind the scenes. I'm not a big enough fan to have ever watched it. Labyrinth was a favorite film of mine in my youth. I just got this budget copy of it, although I've never watched this copy and I've not really seen the film since I was very young. Well, I've seen parts, but I'm a big Bowie fan. He did another film where he played an alien in a science fiction film called It's Something Like the Last Man on Earth, and it was just it's a great sci-fi flick that I need to revisit. But a big inspiration. Bowie's career has been noteworthy. Okay, The Last Unicorn I've seen a couple of times in its entirety. Total Recall, when it came out, it probably doesn't, well, I don't know what year exactly it came out, but it took its place at the pinnacle. It was my favorite movie I'd ever seen. I couldn't believe how incredible it was when it came out when I was very young. I've got a lot of Schwarzenegger flicks, and usually if I pop a movie in, which is very rare, mostly I just want to have it in the background and listen to the commentary. So I don't want to watch a lot of films. Every once in a while I have a bit of a streak where I will watch a number of films I've not seen before in a row over a week or so, but that only happens once every 6 months. I'm not really much of a TV or a movie watcher, although I do like some humorous TV, and over the past few years I've watched some reality TV of stuff like Face Off and RuPaul, where artists are competing against one another while they do their art under intense scrutiny. Dark Crystal, I don't think I've ever seen this film in its entirety, so you can tell I do have some of these staples in the fantasy and sci-fi genres, but really I admit I've not seen Dark Crystal. I fell asleep watching half of it once, although there's one scene that I did think was kind of nice. It's the only scene in the movie that I can remember, and they were on these two puppet characters were on a boat, and they swampy region, and one of them was playing like an ocarina or a set of panpipes, and the other one was singing, and I thought it was a very unique, sort of trippy scene. I did go through and flip over the actual music artist CDs because I've just kept them for nostalgic purposes, and I don't think any of the bands are actually any good. It's just acts that I've shared the stage with, or people that I've BS'd with before at festivals, and they've given me their albums, and I've just hung on to them for strictly nostalgic purposes. But I don't want anyone going out and looking up any of this music and wasting their time, because I don't know, I just don't have anything to say about them. Alright, I've also relaxed many times while watching Tai Chi videos. And I've kind of grabbed every $1 Tai Chi film I could find on the clearance racks, because often the hosts are very relaxing, and at least a few points of each film I found them to be worthwhile relaxation kind of tools. And this one has Joey Bond, and he's an interesting, charismatic guy in full 80s apparel, and he has like a tagline he says at the beginning or at the end of every episode, and it was noteworthy. I just can't remember it. He says something like, "Keep the peace, strive to improve," or something like this. Among all those films that I sold online, a lot of them were concert festival weekends where the producers put together a best of, or at least they featured one song of each act. And I never really found that I liked any of them except the Bonnaroo ones, and I did. I think I've scored every Bonnaroo concert film DVD, and they all definitely have some great performances. I went to one Bonnaroo, and that was back in 2004. It was the, I think it was the third or fourth Bonnaroo. I don't know which one exactly it was, but for me that was not a good weekend. We won't go into that. But anyway, the Bonnaroo concert film collections are stellar quality. They show you the background scenes. You really get the feel for what these giant festivals of a decade ago were when they were first exploding in giant crowds of 80,000 people descending on this really strained infrastructure and going crazy. So I didn't really like the lineup of the Bonnaroo that I went to, and I only came away having a couple of good experiences. I'll have to leave that for another story video, maybe. This one might have, actually I've not seen this one very much. It might have Santa Gold on it. I don't know. But her performance, I love her. I love that act. She's brought me to tears before with the beauty of the performance. Here's another Tai Chi video. This guy, I don't know his name, but he's more relaxing overall than Joey Bond. And I've had some couch sessions where I've watched this video over and over again to relax. Well, trying to wring out as much relaxation as possible. Here we have Predator with Schwarzenegger. Another great one. I've watched. Probably haven't seen the whole film since I was very young, though. But I love those Arnold Schwarzenegger action flicks. I grew up in the 80s, and they were landmark films, and I'm still a huge fan. And of course, some of his characters are my favorite characters that have graced the screen of all time. And I'm just going to skip right here to the top right and mention that this is, since 4th grade, has been my favorite fantasy flick of all time. I definitely think it's much better than Lord of the Rings. Honestly. It's got a great commentary with Warwick Davis. And the art of casting and choosing the correct human beings for each role, I think that it was mastered. This was probably the best ensemble casting job I think I could ever point to in any film. And if I was going to have a job in Hollywood, I would want to be a casting director or someone who got to choose who would move into each role. It's fantastic. And if you've not seen it, and you have any interest in the fantasy genre, Willow is the best of the best, in my opinion. Okay, this was a recent score, Zardoz. This features Sean Connery in a weird science fiction role where he's exploring a planet full of these cultists. And it's got a great opening scene, and I need to finish it out because I've only seen half of it, and it definitely deserves repeated watchings. I'm gonna have to revisit that soon. I also bought Cabin Boy for a couple dollars. Chris Elliott is the star of this film, and he was in minor roles in a lot of early mid-90s flicks. He was in CB4, I think, and he's had some other roles. He was a writer for one of the TV comedy programs, I think, but his TV program, he starred in a television program called Get a Life, which when I was young, I thought it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. And his humor in Cabin Boy is not for everyone, but I love the absurdity of this film, and I should watch it again sometime soon. Complete Dada style absurdity in some scenes, ridiculous in so many ways. But now we move to Alien, the most engrossing science fiction flick ever made. And for me, the best science fiction movie ever. Probably it's got good commentary on here too with the director. I don't have a copy of Blade Runner, but I probably should. I also love Blade Runner, so that's going to be missing from this journey, but I love it so much. I'm looking forward to newer films in the franchise that have been announced recently. Okay, Titan Quest is a top-down RPG, action RPG game, very much like Torchlight and Diablo 2. This was a contemporary of Diablo 2, I think. Kind of a clone, maybe, but it's highly regarded. It's never made its way onto the digital download platforms and the newer last-gen systems, but I wish that it would. I've not played it at all. I played a little bit of Torchlight, and I played my share of Diablo 2 and more. Never could quite get into Diablo 3, but I'm going to try to force my way through it just to check out the story, maybe. I don't know. I just don't get a lot of satisfaction out of that playstyle anymore, but I was definitely hooked on Diablo 2 and another game called Baldur's Gate in the early 90s. And that is why I was immune to World of Warcraft, because had World of Warcraft been available when I was in the period of my life when I was susceptible to this stuff, I would have been just as hooked, if not more so, than everybody else who was hooked on World of Warcraft. The barbs sink in so far. This stuff really hooks you, and I've definitely been hooked on some computer games and video games in the past. Alright, this is a CD filled with the sounds of late summer insects. It's very cool. There's an accompanying book that I featured on my library roleplay. Very awesome. Alright, another live from Bonnaroo film. I know there's some great stuff on here, I just don't remember what it is. I've watched almost all of the Bonnaroo videos many, many times, so that's another. I just couldn't really bring myself to sell them, even though I sold off a lot of concert films I liked. I just really thought I wasn't really going to watch them anymore enough to justify having them around. Bonnaroo, 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 Bonnaroo. Excellent performances all around. They've curated this festival very well, and it's close to where I live. It's in Tennessee, and I'm in Lexington, Kentucky, so it was if I was a festival goer still, which I'm not really anymore, I would I would have went to a lot more Bonnaroos because they have a great mix of hip hop, rock, metal, and funk and world music and everything. So it's pretty cool. It grew out of its roots as just kind of a hippie jam band sort of a festival, and became a lot more nuanced. And then even more Bonnaroo. And then over the years, I've hung on to all these installation discs for all these different computer peripherals. And I know I don't even have this monitor or know where it is anymore, but like this is just another disc. I've not really ever just went through and gotten rid of all this stuff, but I plan for this to be the only binder filled with CDs that I ever have. So as it gets full, I'm going to just eventually start getting rid of this stuff, probably on a case-by-case basis when I find something I want to add. Alright, about 10 years ago, this guy published some DVD films that show you the locations of the arches in the Red River Gorge, which is a great geological treasure, a Kentucky state park that allows a lot of wild camping and has a lot of developed trails and a lot of amenities and everything. And it's a sprawling treasure. Kentucky's unique in that the whole eastern part of the state is covered in national parkland, state parkland, and the western part of the state also has its share of huge natural areas and a lot of caves all around, and a lot of wildlife management areas, and tons of opportunities for outdoor recreation. It's a gorgeous state with a lot to offer. And this guy went through and found all of the natural sandstone arches formed through water or wind. And he shows you pictures and locations and mentions which ones are on public land, which ones are on private land. And he has a relaxing voice, and it was a great score. I don't think they're on the market anymore, but I found them. And this year, around 10 years ago, I went to the Red River Gorge a lot. There was one summer when I was there almost every weekend, camping and hiking, and I never really got into rock climbing. Those rock climbers are pretty intense, but all the other types of recreational stuff you can do in the gorge, I've done it many times over. This was the other one that he produced first. Okay, I've got a pen tablet. This is just something that a lot of graphic designers use when they're going to be interfacing with the computer to make images. But for a time, I used it kind of as a mouse replacement, and I had it at hand where I could grab it up and hover the ink pen. It's like shaped like an ink pen, and you move it over a tablet, and I would make that my mouse pointer, and I had my right click under my index finger, and I probably had my wheel click under another clicker that I could easily access, and I would use it as a mouse when I had a lot of just managing all my files and my daily computer work, but I just kind of gave that up, and in the future, if I ever need it, I've got it stored. You know, who knows what I'll get into in the future. Maybe I'll need a computer pen tablet. Alright, two of my favorite traditional Celtic DVDs are called Come West Along the Road. I have both volumes. This was published by the major national television station in Ireland, and these are archives from the 60s to the 1980s. It's people who lived in these towns being featured on television programs, performing traditional music. And if you're into Celtic music, you should do everything in your power to get a hold of both editions. Come West Along the Road, volumes 1 and 2. Astounding performances, and each one of these has like 50 performances, so it's worth almost any price. Alright, this is in the tradition of kind of like Pink Floyd putting together their Dark Side of the Moon album and syncing it with The Wizard of Oz. As a fan made the Tool album Lateralis and synced it with The Nightmare Before Christmas, and somebody gave me this, along with a bunch of Tool concert bootleg DVD or CDs. In high school, and right after high school, I was a big Tool fan. Went to all their concerts. It was a very they put on a great show, and so this is a choice piece of fan media there, and it's probably available on YouTube. But check it out if you're a Tool fan or a Nightmare Before Christmas fan. The Nightmare Before Lateralis. Very cool, very interesting. Alright, and another computer thing. I don't even have this anymore. This was like a control pad, very outdated, compatible with Windows XP only. I don't even have it anymore. I wouldn't do any computer gaming with a gamepad. I would play the Xbox, and I've been playing it this month a lot more than usual. Ultimate Halloween Party Favorites. One of these discs is like eerie sounds. One's like popular music, like Thriller and the Monster Mash and stuff, and the other one are like another sound, sort of a sound effect, creepy sound effect sort of thing, and I think they're pretty awesome, and I'll be watching them someday. I'll be listening to them again someday. Alright, and as you can see, I couldn't really part with too many funk DVDs, so I've got Rick James, Super Freak, Live 1982, The Crown Prince, I guess, of Funk, and The Godfather of Soul, the best James Brown DVD. I bought another one which was inferior footage, but this is probably the best ever, Live in Montreux, and they did an excellent job, and this is another one of the indispensable funk concert film experiences that you should see if you're into funk music. It's incredible. Alright, and now we're going to check out the first of many Chieftain CD DVDs. I think I have every one they've released except for a making of The Long Black Veil, which I don't think actually has too much concert footage, and it's a little pricey. But this is a great one. Galway is a flutist, or a flautist, and he interacts with the Chieftains a lot, talks about his career and theirs, and this is a great mix of concert and rehearsal footage mixed with some great interviews. The Chieftains are they're probably my favorite band. It's all Irish, Celtic traditional music. And I saw them in concert once, in the first or second row, and then at the end of the concert they asked people to come up on stage and dance with them, so I got on stage and did a little jig, and I met Paddy Maloney. Walked by me and wouldn't respond, but I met the drummer, who was very forthcoming and sweet, and of course now I'll forget his name. Kevin Kniff. And it just so happened that I was walking around behind the venue looking for somewhere to eat or coming from a restaurant, and they just traipsed up on the walk behind me. My musical idols. I've performed Celtic music for many years. Every performance of mine starts with Celtic tunes, and I play several in every show. Alright, Cubase is a digital audio workstation, or a DAW. This is used for music production, and I do it the old-fashioned way, so I've not even ever installed this, but this just makes music production a little bit easier, so when you're mixing your tracks, you don't have to worry about, well, it gives you, it gives you complete control, and these are indispensable in modern music production. So one day I'll catch up with the times and start using them. Alright, this is just all Dell computer drivers, utilities, stuff like that. Just, once again, tons of computer discs that came along with various towers that my family has owned over the years, and a copy of WordPerfect, which out some archived WordPerfect stuff. Here we have this came with the computer stylus pen. It's a copy of Adobe Photoshop, well, a trial version of both Corel Painter and Photoshop. So it probably just doesn't give you all the options, or you probably can't save or something. But and more computer stuff. None of this. I probably don't have any of these programs anymore. Okay, this is a very cool piece of nostalgic gaming for anyone interested in Magic the Gathering, the card game. When it came out, I was in middle school. Myself and all of my friends got into the game, and we would play it after school. And this was maybe the first, or at least a very early, officially licensed Magic game that let you build decks, and it had the first couple of expansions, and you could build any deck you wanted with as many cards, and like you could make a whole deck of one type of card and lands. At any rate, I was obsessed with this card game, and I would play myself. I would make 4 or 5 decks, and I would sit on the floor and have them. I would I would pit them against each other, and I was constantly tweaking them. It was so much fun, and this computer game also had a very fun kind of a campaign mode where you would travel around and do battle. There was some rough story, and for anyone who's interested in Magic, this is also a choice disc, I would say. Alright, not sure what this is. Probably some way to manage your music. Or it might be a music production suite or something. I don't even know what it is. Player. Okay, more computer backup stuff. Okay, more computer software backups. And my GRE instructional software. This arrived in the mail after I had taken my GRE. This is a test you take to get into grad school, and I took it in the dead of winter during a snowstorm. I was a little bit late getting to the test, and I had a high fever and a very bad cold, probably flu symptoms, and I hadn't studied very much. And I did pretty good. The only thing that I didn't like was the subjective grading of my essays, because there were only a couple questions, I think, and one of them was just kind of an easy logic question, and I nailed it. I know I did a smashing job of answering the question in essay format, but it wasn't very wordy, and all the essays were subjectively graded by professors at the local universities, and they gave me a poor score, and I was immediately soured because I was fresh out of logic class in university, and I knew exactly what the answer was and answered it clearly, and I'm certain that it was just terrible. My GRE score overall was dropped so much by the poor grade I received on those essays, and I think I deserved a much better score. I can't remember what my score was. This was many years ago. I only applied for grad school once, and I only applied to one school, so when you make those choices, you can be sure you've got a high chance of being rejected for that one school, especially if you rush your application package. So I didn't get into grad school, but maybe one day I'll go to grad school, who knows. My undergrad degree is in philosophy, and I had a psychology minor. Alright, so more backups. this one's for a router. And then here's another, like, Cakewalk. So, a music creator, I guess it's an early music production suite, but I don't know about any of this stuff. If I would have gotten into it, a lot of people who are a little bit younger than me grew up with the choice of not only learning to play drums and guitars, but also they could have picked up these great electronic programs and learned to produce music with computers. And I didn't really have that option available until I'd already committed myself to learning music, I guess, the old-fashioned way. Although now, at this point, I have messed around with some of these production suites, and I think they're powerful tools, and they're pretty awesome. It's just, I have to be careful about where I devote my energies, and I guess I'll always be a traditionalist. I'm going to try to master my craft using real instruments and leave the electronic music production to other people. Although I do love it, I'm a great fan of dance music and all the different styles of electronic and experimental computer music. And another whole 2 pages of various computer stuff. One day I should probably get rid of all this. Okay, this is a voice recognition software that I've used with great success. Dragon Naturally Speaking, it's called, and once you've trained it to understand what you're saying, I've written quite a lot. For a time, I was answering emails with it and everything, but nowadays I only plug it in when I'm trying to get my ideas out in a very freestyle kind of a way, and then I go back through and edit everything. But I wrote a whole book this way, and I'll let everybody know about it pretty soon. I've just been a little bit lazy. I got my mock-up, and I'm going through to re-edit everything again, and then this will be my final round of editing. I've actually already done it. I just need to go back through and refresh the text and get another tester copy and just make sure everything's A-okay. But I guess I've toyed with publishing a lot. I've messed around with making like poetry chapbooks and stuff in the past, and I will eventually release all my old poetry from college, and I have a number of other books that I'll eventually write and publish, but the one that I've recently finished is not poetry. I'll just let everybody know about it later. Okay, The Chieftains concert film, An Irish Evening. This one had 2 guest stars, and amazing traditional Irish music. This is called Down the Old Plank Road, another Chieftains concert with a lot of country artists. I don't like this one at all, really. Oops, don't like it quite as much. At the end, there's an incredible finale where all of the traditional musicians who they feature during this show come out and do a solo during one long extended jam, and that's pretty cool. But some of their collaborations I've not really been a fan of. I like when they stick with the traditional stuff, or if they stretch out. I like when it doesn't involve guest stars, and this one's filled with them. Alright, the first copy of Come West Along the Road. The first disc. And another Chieftains concert. Water from the Well. This one is mostly interviews, I think. And it just... everybody sits down and talks about the history of the band, and it does have, I guess, some live performances too. Conan the Barbarian and the Destroyer. Only one of these has commentary. I think it's Barbarian. But my 2 favorite fantasy films, I suppose, aside from Willow, An Incredible Universe and there's the heavy metal album, concert, Black Dahlia again. The other disc was a documentary about their lives, or about their touring cycle or something. And here's another Chieftains DVD, Live at Montreux. You can tell I'm a huge Chieftains fan. This is probably the best stuff. I can't really say that. I like this one and the Irish Evening, and my newest favorite is the James Galway one. But I've watched this one the most. I've seen this one more than any of the others. I'm certain of it. I also hung on to Ghostland Observatory DVD, live from Austin, Texas. This is a band from Texas, so probably my second favorite band from Texas after Mars Volta, and my third favorite band from Texas, easily ZZ Top. I had a couple of good ZZ Top album DVDs that I did sell. I kind of went overboard. I just sold them because I felt like it, and but I would never really have gone back and watched them, so it felt better, and it still feels better to just have the space free, so it's not an emotional burden. And finally, the last two discs is a documentary about guns and the history of their evolution, starting with the invention of gunpowder. So, I hope you've enjoyed checking out my collection of CDs. I think that a collection like this is as personal as the person who owns it, and I have enjoyed this chance to let you into my life a little bit, and let you know a little bit about my journey through the media that I have collected and retained over the years. So, thanks very,